Uh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. What's up, everybody? I have Kai from Lucas Landon Royals over here, and as usual, we're going to shout out who's in the chat. So, what's up, Eric? Thanks for asking. What's up with me? I'm doing great. We got Mike from Herp Collectors. Great interview the other night with Will Morose from Royal Canadian Reptiles. I hope I got that right. It was an awesome interview. That's me. This guy rocking the Lady Tiz shirt I just got the other day. Rob M, what's good? We got John No H saying what's up to both of us with his new logo. All right. So, Kai, so how we normally do this on my channel, we'll give a brief introduction of yourself. And how long you've been keeping ball pythons, and if you've been keeping any other reptiles.
Oh yeah, sure. So my name is Kai. I guess I'm owner and founder of Lucas Landon Royals. That name is a combination of my son's names, and I've been doing ball pythons for about 5 years. I've kind of documented everything that I've been doing on YouTube. So if you go back all the way to my first videos, you'll see that I was initially interested in the genetic aspect of it, and then I did a lot of DIY because I had to build these racks to house my snakes. So I had a lot of DIY videos, and now predominantly my videos are more informational, educational, and as well as all the breeding parts of the ball python, which is all the fun stuff with when you have cutting the eggs and looking at hatchlings and things like that. So I've been doing, like I said, breeding ball pythons for 5 years. I'm not breeding anything else at the moment.
Okay.
But I do have a few other species, a couple other species.
So, that you're interested in or that you're working with?
I have them and they're pets, but I'm not breeding them.
Okay. Yeah, I have bunch of pets, but like you, I'm ball python heavy and focused, but
right.
Some of these other pets, my Russian tortoises lay, they can be captive bred, and right now, last show I was at, they were selling for like $100 some odd for farm raised. So in my brain it's like, well, captive bred, people will pay for that, like organic food.
Oh sure.
So I'm like, the price is going up. If they actually will go, and I know I missed another season at this point, and the male's still trying to go, but yeah, we'll see with them. What's up, Phil?
Hey, Phil.
I skipped our patient saint of bumblebees and xanthics, Jeremy. How's it going?
Hey, bro. Is Chris on here yet? I'm wearing a shirt for a reason.
Oh, he might show up. Maybe
Danny will show up.
Danny will show up and call everything bird food. All right. So, we reference other species. Is it more ball python related, or not python related, or snake related on your end?
Yeah. Like I said, it's my whole room is all ball pythons, but I have a pair of boa imperators.
Okay.
So I do have a pair, like I said, it's a male and female, kind of going for like that Noah Ark kind of thing, where if I have any other species, it'll just be in a pair. I won't go too crazy with like I did with ball pythons, because I want to stick with that and focus on primarily ball pythons.
Right.
And then I am considering getting into blood pythons as well. My friend John over at John Danner's Reptiles, he does blood pythons. So I would like to visit his facility, because I know he built a brand new facility. So I'm just waiting for the optimal time to go. When he has a lot of blood python hatchlings, that would probably be a good opportunity for me to go there and have my pick at what I want. But for now, it's the ball pythons, the boas. I have a bunch of fish and corals and anemones and things like that. We got like a few chickens in our yard as well. So
Yeah, but I mean, like blood pythons, like now that there's pied, there's various things.
Hmm.
I know when I was at Oaks, Danner had the best blood pythons at that show.
Hmm.
Uh, and I was like, wow, if I had the money, to go and invest in a new, species, I'd do that with bloods. I mean, now, would you see what Elias is producing with at Juggernaut?
That's crazy. Yeah.
Phil says, well, first of all,
I saw
Jeremy
the
says,
white ones that he had. I don't know what, I forget what those are called. Did you?
Kai, when can Jeremy expect that leopard clown from Jeremy?
When should I expect that leopard clown? Oh, the one from today's video. Uh, Probably never.
Um, and then Phil says you need some Antaresia, which I believe is children's Simpsons and
Spotted.
spotted pythons.
I know
This Phil has them.
Phil dabbles in it. Phil breeds them.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's this weird thing where we got to hyper focus on what we're good at, ball pythons, and then maybe slightly branch out later to some other species, and then get into that more as we expand further. And now when I say I'm small, I'm like 20 some ball pythons and pet species, so I'm small here. So it's weird for me to be like hear people say hold back all your females. I'm like hell no. Like I produce a 1 to 4, and most of them are gone, except for like one female champagne that'll hold back. So yeah, I mean, well, we can talk about that. Like, what's your holdback strategy as far as like where your projects are going?
So I don't go based off of like any percentage. Like I don't tell myself that hey I should hold back 10% or 20% or anything like that. I just if I hit what I want, then I'll hold it back. If I don't hit what I want, I'll either just sell them or I'll look at my plans to see if I can tweak the plans, right? Like I never try to make plans where they're like 100% fixed and in place. Like I want to make sure that there's flexibility. So if there's ways that I can tweak the plan with the animals that I did get, even though I didn't get what I wanted, then I would still hold those back. Like for example, the ultramel pied. I mean, I would really have liked to hit more ultramel pieds in those clutches. Um, but what I have, and I would like to have hit pieds that were, pieds because then they would be 100% heifer ultramel, because the dad is an ultramel, right?
Right.
But instead, I hit a bunch of ultramels, but they're only 66% heifer pied.
Yeah.
So in order for me, so what I did was I decided to change the strategy a little bit. Um, Instead of say hold back a couple pieds that were 100% heifer ultramel, I changed the strategy to hold back 4 ultramels that are 66% heifer pied. I'm playing the odds game a little bit and playing with the numbers. So that to me still gives me pretty good odds because holding back 2 pieds that are 100% for ultramel guarantees the ultramel aspect of it, right? But holding back 4 ultramels that are 66% heifer pied, and plus I can see the pied markers on those, I still have pretty good odds. I still have like 2 females. If you look at the statistics, I would still end up with 2 females that are, um, heifer pied. And then I also thought that was even more beneficial for me because I'm lacking on the ultramel aspect within my collection. Like I only have 2 visual ultramels, right? A total of 4 animals, but only 2 of them are visual, that have ultramel. So keeping those ultramel holdbacks as opposed to the pied holdback, which I didn't get many pieds. I only got 1. So I decided to tweak the plan a little bit, But getting back to your question, like I said, there isn't a number, a fixed number that I would use to determine how many holdbacks. There are some clutches where I didn't get anything that I wanted,
And
right?
they're
Or,
all
so I rather just sell them, hope that they're an asset to somebody else in their project, help them push forward, and then use the the sales to then ultimately look for what I want or something that is going to get me further than if I try to produce something myself.
right.
Because our time here is kind of limited, and I don't want to get all philosophical, but
You
there's
can.
only a certain amount of time we have on this earth, right? So it makes sense to use your money to really, in a way, you're buying time. Um, Try to get to your
Yeah,
goal faster, what you want to produce.
yeah. I mean, a double visual helps you better than a visual 100% het, and so on and so forth as we go up
Right.
the ladder. So as you breed those things together, and now you're dealing with maybe a single visual 100% pos
Hmm.
type of animal. Now with genetic testing, it gets easier to you know. Yeah, we'll actually skip to that question because it's a big thing right now. Um, when you're breeding a recessive project, you're going to get it either 100%, 50, whatever um, percentage that recessive could be in there after the visual's been bred down the line. So I mean, we can talk about that now since Morph Market has announced the partnership um, where they're doing genetic testing. So I mean, what do you feel about that? Where like I could put a G stripe pos, 25% DG, to something, and then send out the sheds of the offspring, and maybe it proves out, maybe it doesn't, but we don't have to prove it out anymore.
I think the genetic testing is going to be a huge asset to this hobby. Um, as a breeder, it's going to make as a breeder who has a limited amount of space, right? It's going to make my life a lot easier because if I'm dealing with a whole clutch of 50% het puzzles, if there's a genetic test for het puzzle, then I would know, out of that entire clutch, how many that are actually het for puzzle. So
Right.
instead of holding back like
All
four four female, yeah, or all of them that are pos het for puzzle, I would hold back maybe the one or two that tested positive for het puzzle. That allocates the space that I need for possibly other animals down the line. I'm not solely doing this for money, so I wouldn't mind selling those other ones that I could have sold as possible het for puzzle and gotten maybe like $100 more or something like that. But through genetic testing, I would know that they've tested negative, and it gives the buyer, um, you know, more be more confident in exactly what they're getting. They're not paying money for something that's not there, and and they'll be able to more accurately identify that animal if that animal breeds for them. They're not going to deal with, like you said, like further possible hets,
right.
and they're
I
not going to be wasting their time trying to prove out that animal. Right. So again, it all goes back to time. Like we have a fixed amount of time. I don't want to waste time. So if we can have genetic tests for every mutation, every morph, that would be awesome. Uh, Especially for the recessives. Now, when it comes to the codoms or the incomplete dominants, those are visual, but when you start stacking like 3, 4, 5 genes, it might be beneficial to send those sheds off as well, so you know exactly what that animal is. Because even on Morph Market, you look at some of these animals that are 4 genes that are clowns or het clowns or pies or whatever they are. They don't all look the same. Like even if you put you know 2 animals that are on Morph Market that are listed labeled as the same, you put them side by side and they don't look the same. So
yeah,
somebody's off.
I
So,
mean, put a champagne hat pied up there, and I will tell you there are whatever are listed minus other genes. They're all different looking. And that's just a throwback to how champagne messes with stuff. And I was trying to figure out like, okay, what's here with my champagne combos that I just hashed out? And it's like, okay, these two are definitely normal champagnes. The one has a little ringer. That's normal for champagnes to throw a ringer. May or may not be het pied. Mom proved out to be het pied with that visual pied looking thing I hatched out. So it's like trying to figure out what the hell is in this clutch. And I'm like, I did my best guess on what the genes I knew that were there, that had to be there. I didn't know. Mom was a normal, possible het pied. I'm pretty sure she doesn't have anything else, and I'm pretty sure the sire didn't have anything else hidden in that champagne pastel. But again, hitting 4 champagnes and a pastel, I have no clue if there was something else in there. So, I mean, genetic testing on certain genes or morphs would be really, really helpful. Be able to discern what the hell is actually in there.
Yeah, and like I said, I would. It would be great if they could be able. They have tests for everything. I think down the line, I don't know, in our lifetime or maybe the next lifetime, hopefully they will have tests for everything. Maybe there's like some kind of key that they need to unlock, and all of a sudden we can expedite those tests. Because right now it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of sheds. So as it picks up, hopefully, these organizations who are developing these tests, the people in this industry will start to really feel that there's a benefit, and so we'll be able to. Because I know I sent in tons of sheds.
Oh, same here.
Yeah, so I sent in a lot of sheds, but the thing you have to understand is like they can't work on every single mutation at the same time. So they're picking and choosing something that they're interested in. So even if you send in like 20 sheds, if those animals that produce those sheds don't have the mutation that they're interested in building a test for, they're probably just going to set that aside, shelve it. Because remember what's that? The ball python genetics? Is that the
EMU with Dr. Hannah?
Yeah, with Dr. Hannah.
We overwhelmed it last year.
I know she was trying to develop tests for the genes that are in the yellow belly complex, right? And so if you sent in anything that was in the yellow belly complex, that takes priority. They took that and tested for the genetics in that because that's something that they were working on. Versus if you sent them something that's like cinnamon or fire, that wasn't in the complex, so they might shelve it.
Right.
And I know like if you ask them to test for something that they didn't have, because I it's funny because I sent them a bunch of sheds. Some of them were like possible hef for G stripe, possible hef for hypo, hef for desert ghost. They didn't have those tests. So I felt like I was wasting their time. But for the ones that they did have tests for, like I think lavender, ultramel, and pied. Yeah, she did get back to me.
Candy, that complex.
She did get back to me with a couple of the results. Not all the animals that I wanted in the tests, but a couple of them.
Yeah.
And that was nice of them to like go out of their way and give me results for a couple of those sheds. They didn't have to, but it was nice of them to do so. But like I was saying earlier, the whole point is that they have to focus on certain ones. And so even though this hobby might be sending in hundreds or thousands of sheds, not all of them are going to be used.
Well, hey Kai, we got a comment down below from somebody that purchased an 8 from you.
We got a pastel blade extreme gene clown female from you earlier in the year. Oh, awesome. She is a stunner. Oh, thanks.
But yeah, I mean, I sent my sheds out too. I think I missed the deadline. I sent them towards the end of the school year.
Yeah, so for Hannah, I mean, she's a professor at the university. So yeah. I think they're only doing it
school year.
every semester. So twice a year, I think is what they're doing it.
And now it's a waiting list. But luckily for me, what I was trying to figure out was for Pied, the champagne proved that out for me. So that was nice. Unfortunately, he was the only male in the collection. I really wish he would have been a female so I could, held him back because looks like a Pied. But he's going off to Jess Ozak, so that's fine. But yeah, I mean, I think genetic testing can cut out 2-3 years. I mean, it may, if I can send out this super vanilla trick 50% het clown that I got from Balls Deep, that shed, and it proves out to be 100%, that changes the game.
Yeah, and it also clarifies some confusion. There's all this talk about Trick, Blitz, Hurricane being the same or being different. There's debates about it. So, if we have the genetic test for those genes, and they can show that they're either allelic or they're identical, then that would really help to clear the air.
I mean, I think that's been figured out by breeding, but not by genetics yet.
Right.
They do similar things, but we don't need a genetic test to tell us that lesser and butter are similar, or banana and coral glow are similar.
Yeah, but did you hear there's actually 2 forms of yellow belly?
I did.
Yeah.
It's higher and lower.
Yeah. So same thing with I was thinking that might happen with other stuff that we know about in the hobby, fire and sulfur and Lucifer. Some people think they're all the same. Some people think they're different. It could be the same case. Trick, Blitz, Hurricane. It could be the same case as yellow belly. Maybe they are different. They just look identical, and we've just treated them to be the same. But maybe they really are different, and we won't know until we have those genetic tests available.
Right, but you mentioned the fire complex. So you have fire to fire makes a black-eyed Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
You have fire to vanilla, doesn't do that. Fire to disco doesn't do that. Super vanilla doesn't do that. Super disco, I don't believe, does that. I don't deal with that. So, I mean, it's just interesting how some of these allelic morphs pair together to do something opposite than what we thought. Look at the yellow belly complex. An ivory is a white snake, more or less. Throwing gravel, throwing asphalt, freeways, highways, parkways, that sort of thing. I mean, it's insane.
Yep. But we knew that the other genes in the yellow belly complex before. I mean, we produced pumas and what's the other one? Super stripes.
Yep.
And they're not all white either. They I know the puma, as it ages, it'll kind of bleach out and turn close to white, but it still has some of the patterns that it gets to keep, as opposed to the ivory. The ivory, it's funny because I thought I might produce some ivories a few years ago. So I kind of talked to people how I can identify other genes in an animal if it was an ivory, and basically you would really have to just identify it, before its second shed or something like that, because it starts to lose color. Even in ivory, right? It's straight up ivory. It still has a little bit of pattern, but as it ages, that pattern turns bone white. So if you have pastel in there, it kind of has a yellowish tint to the body and the head. But again, as it ages, it becomes harder and harder to tell because it just turns white. I think it's interesting that leopard and enchi adds pattern back into the ivory.
That's interesting because, this will be one of the few times I actually show off a snake on my own show.
Yeah.
Kai is...
you got something there?
I got something enchi and super fast stuff. And actually a visual receptor, so it's kind of cool. So I will actually take out this snake first and put myself on solo. No, that's putting Kai on solo.
That's me.
I put myself on damn solo. Switch myself back. There we go. So this is a Super Pastel, Enchi, Butter, Ghost. You see what Enchi can do in here. I mean, Enchi's the great put the pattern back together. Right? I mean, that's insane. How many genes are going on in here? Enchi puts that all back together. You are really warm. What I mean, Enchi just puts it back together. And here, this is my just single gene super pastel. It has the same genes, so everybody can see. Add butter and Enchi, and goes. Changes it all back up. I mean, I just think that's incredible. One gene in that parent can do. I mean, you have butter, you know what it's going to do. You have ghost, you know it's going to brighten it up. But then Enchi just takes that whole thing, makes that pattern almost normal. And I think that's cool what like one genetic combo can do.
Yeah. And I think I'm hoping that with the genetic testing, we'll get further advanced in that area so that we can actually understand how, like the Enchi or leopard is able to bring some color and pattern back into an ivory. Like, does it actually, does maybe like Enchi and leopard have a certain protein attached to it that interacts with the alleles that are on with the ivory with the yellow belly? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we say it's genes, but it's actually morphs. It's not necessarily genetics. They might pop up on an allele, but we don't want to confuse the genetics people. I mean, it's insane, what certain combos can do. You add leopard, you add Enchi, that sort of thing can really change up a pattern, especially in all white, what you would assume to be an all white snake.
I wish I could see the chats at the same time.
You on your phone?
Yeah. I try to do it on my laptop, but my laptop is extremely old.
Yeah, I've been trying to put it up. So last thing, I think Phil said, have to speed up the genetic testing.
How do we speed it up for resurgence? I know what it is, Phil. I just don't want to tell you.
Phil's just sending garbage bags of sheds over to whoever is taking them, I guess, at this point.
Oh, I saw a post from Hannah. She actually showed off Phil's shed and how clean and neat his stuff were. So good job there on Phil. Oh, Chip is in here. Chip from Regis Fair Pythons. Hey, Chip.
Yeah, Chip's been in here. He was a guest earlier. He's got a couple good videos. He's got a nice series, King of the Hill, King of the Mountain. Go check it out.
Oh, yeah.
Chip,
hey, Chip, can I enter twice? Or are you only allowed to do it once? I got better animals now. Maybe I can win.
You got some pretty crazy stuff given your YouTube videos. And also, by the way, I didn't mention earlier, all of Kai's links are in the description below the video, including a link to all of his links. That is his webpage. And I found that out after I put all the other links, so I thought that was funny. All right, so I know you mentioned doing you're on racks, and that was the start of your channel. So for anybody that may or may not be handy, what do you recommend here? DIY or professional? If I stand in front of DIY.
Well, I mean, you said may or may not be handy. So if you are handy, I would say go build your own racks. If you're not handy, try to keep your body parts and just go buy the racks.
All right. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's also depends on if you can get the material. If you want to work with wood and melamine, you can probably get it wherever you are. But PVC, from the comments in my DIY videos, it seems like the PVC material that I use for my DIYs are not available in every state. California comes to mind. I've gotten a few comments from those in California saying that they can't find it at their Home Depot. They don't sell it. They won't even ship it to California.
Right, because in California, everything's got that asterisk, whatever,
Yeah,
69 or
yeah,
63 causes cancer, can't be sold here thing.
right. So it depends. If you can source it, then if you can source it and you're handy, or you want to try to build it, then go for it. Because it is rewarding when you build it and you're like, oh, this is something that I did all by myself, you know. But on the other hand, if you buy something that's professional freedom breeder, it's really nice to look at. You know, it's all
Right.
shiny and everything.
Instead of all these different racks behind me.
Yep. And again, you're saving time, right? You can spend $3,000, $4,000 on a freedom breeder rack. It looks great. It functions great. It'll probably last forever. It holds its value. But yeah, you're saving time by not building it yourself, right? You just have to. I'm sure you have to assemble it when it comes to you, but it's certainly a lot less time than going out to Home Depot, buying the material, and then cutting it yourself, maybe recutting it, and then drilling the holes and all this
free
stuff.
wood breeder, man. It's all subfloor that I cut and put back together.
But it took time, right? It's free.
It took time.
But it took time.
The actual only money is the heat tape in the back and the tubs.
Right. So it's a trade-off, and you have to look at how much you value your own time. And if you think that you can probably make more money per hour, then you're more likely to go ahead and buy your rack. If you are not making as much per hour, then you're basically using your own labor, because it's free labor. You're using your own labor and applying that to your racks.
Right.
For me, it was, I could afford it, but the problem that I had was when I started, I was in like this little tiny corner of my basement, and so I didn't want to go with a large freedom breeder rack, even though you could have like different tub sizes. I just didn't feel like it was modular enough for me, and it would take up more space that I rather allocate to tubs rather than the metal and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I opted to build it, and also I wanted to. When I started, I didn't want to put that much money into it, so I rather put the money into the snakes. Because if you think about it, the snake is going to live in the tub. It doesn't really care about the rack itself. It doesn't care that it's made of metal or whatever. The tub is the same. It's still plastic. So from that standpoint, I decided to build my racks. And then and then as I expanded my room, I have this propensity to make sure that everything matches.
You're one of those.
So I didn't want to go and buy, black racks, PVC racks or metal racks or whatever. So I was like, oh, now I'm screwed. I have to build everything myself. So that's kind of what I did. Everything's white.
White PVC racks.
White PVC. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, for me on my end, it certainly saved me about $1,000, give or take, during my time. Yeah, I mean, a C7's 3 tub. Let me pull myself back up here. A C7's 3 tub like this, it's a couple $100. This cost me an afternoon at best, with that one below it too. So, I mean, if you're handy and you can get your hands on the material, it definitely, I think, it's beneficial to do it that way. You can be weird and want everything to match. I'm fine with this all not matching right now, but eventually behind me will be an ARS rack.
Well, the good thing about your wood racks is that you can just paint them all to match.
True.
Right? Save some money, Oh, you have to spend the time to paint them.
Black tomorrow. I mean, I place to put the snakes.
Right. There you go.
Match.
Yep.
And we are at the point in the show where my dog is you know, calling at the door. So I'm going to let Kai take over for a minute.
What? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, it's happened before. It's happened in the past couple of weeks on my show. All right. So, can you go over for the next couple minutes or so, any pitfalls that a first-time breeder could encounter and how to avoid them?
Oh boy.
That's a good question. It's giving me time.
It's a very good question. It puts me in a tough spot because I have to try to remember all my mistakes.
First-time breeder.
And I have to tell everybody how I failed multiple times.
By the way.
Mm.
You're on solo.
Thank you.
I'm going to put you on solo. And you can tell the people while sipping that Lucas Landon Royals coffee mug how to avoid certain pitfalls we fall into when we're younger breeders.
Okay. So, yeah, it's tough for me to talk solo. I guess there's many aspects to look at. I mean, we could talk about, how to go about starting your project, and not to waste money and things like that. But for me, when I started this project, my mindset wasn't really to create a business. My mindset was, how can I make sure that this is at least self-sustaining? Because I have a lot of other hobbies, a lot of other breeding projects. I talked about my fish, my corals, propagating corals, and all that stuff. Those are like money pits, and they just suck all the money out of me. And I see people who do those things. They breed fish, and they propagate corals, and it seems like they're able to make money. But for me, that just didn't happen. So I wanted to make sure that I would avoid those problems if I dive into another project. So for me with ball pythons, I wanted to make sure that if I breed, because ultimately I wanted to breed. If I was to breed, I want to make sure that the animals that I produce were sought after. Make sure that there was some kind of demand. And right off, I could tell that working with recessives retain their value, and they're more sought after, which is one reason why I started with recessives. Actually, to be honest, I started with codoms. I bought a bunch of animals that were codoms, because I didn't really understand the whole codom and recessive thing when I first started. I knew that buying animals that were high in value would give me a larger return, a bigger profit margin. But after I got, like, I don't know, 5 or maybe 12 animals, that's when I realized that I should change directions into recessives. Now, which recessives to get, that's something that you have to consider yourself, because there's a lot of different recessives out there now. Initially, I didn't like pieds. I just thought that they looked kind of sickly. They looked like they had part of their body that was bleached out. But now I come to love that aspect of pieds, and they are now my main focus. Majority, or I would say a third of my animals are pied related. I do have other, recessives as well, but they're more of a complement to my pied project. So pied is still the main focus. Like, I'll put xanthics into pieds, I'll put lavenders into pieds, albinos into pieds. Those are all recessives. But another lesson that I learned is to not spread myself out too thin. Speaking about those other recessives, in the beginning, I was going to try to do like a 1.4 with lavender animals. So meaning that I would get a male that is that has the lavender albino, and then three, four, or five females that have the lavender albino, to make that project worth it. To make that male stretch that male across multiple females. And that was kind of the initial plan in the beginning, was to do that with lavender, to do that with albino, to do that with exanthics, any recessives that I wanted to get into. My mindset was I should do a 1.4. But the lesson that I learned was that, I would stretch myself too thin across all of these projects, which is why now in my mind I always have to tell myself, hey, my focus is pies. So it's okay if I don't have a 1.4 in exanthics. I just need to try to find a way to bring exanthics into pies, which is why, last year and this current year, last season and this season, I was able to produce my exanthic pies. So yes, stay focused is probably the best advice I can give you.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't necessarily for me. It was for, everybody. But I mean, I appreciate, what I heard. I'm going to go back and listen to the part where my dog was outside. Definitely. But yeah, I mean, listen to, you be on with Adam, Chris be on with Adam, you be on in general with other people discussing, how to plan things. Like when you were on with Adam and you had, what, 10 grand to spend, how would you do it?
Right.
5 grand. So it was, you focused on one project. Adam focused on, what, 3 to 4 recessives to kind of work together. And then you mentioned that's how you started. So for me, it's like that's where I'm at. I had few snakes, lots of recessives involved, and so I mean, it was nice to hear that and hear both sides of the thing, the argument, or how to do it. And yeah, I mean, I'm content, making double hits, triple hits, next couple of years, and then taking that sales from what don't work, or what male heavy, genes that don't work, having butter on the same side, or that sort of thing.
Right.
And selling those ones off, and then reinvesting into maybe a visual, double recessive male for that project. And then that sets me up, as I'm growing those females up. Maybe by that time I can get the proven breeder, double visual, and then plug it in, and we're good to go. I mean, the odds, are a lot better at that point.
Yep. And like I said, the advice is to stay focused. And I know that kind of means different things to different people, and that's okay. Like the example that I gave, I stayed focused on pies. But if your goal, or whoever is listening, if your goal is to make, a triple recessive, or triple visual, that might be your focus. All three of those. But who knows? The market might change tomorrow. Maybe triple recessives. I don't know why triple recessives wouldn't be in, but let's just
say at the double recessive point.
We're at double. We're at triples. We're making quads and whatever.
We're at the point where Antoine's going to need his Thanos snake to corner the market.
Yeah, we're making like pentahets.
Yeah.
But yeah, the point is to stay focused. So whatever you want to make, try not to deviate too far from it. But it doesn't mean that you have to stay rigid. Being focused, you still have the ability. You should still have the ability to be flexible and pivot where you need it, because the market might change, your interest might change. You might not get the animal that you want. So you still have to be flexible with your plans, but keep an eye on your goal. If you have to change your goal, then change it. But just don't spread yourself too thin. Like I've talked to people where, and myself included. Like for example, I purchased what did I get? So I was purchasing pies, but a lot of those pies came attached with other recessives, like possible het for hypo, pos het for whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, I was like, well, I don't really want those other genes. I don't really care. You know, the price difference between the one that I want that's pos het for something
There's Chris.
versus that's not pos. Hey, Chris, wearing your shirt.
There you go.
Versus one that's not pos het for something, but that animal doesn't look as great. You know, like I still opted for the animal that looks better, paid a little bit more money. I know I got the pos het for something, but at that time it didn't really mean anything to me. However, as time went on, I'm like, maybe I should prove out this pos het. So then I started to, you know, purchase animals. For example, that it was a coral glow pied pos het for hypo or orange ghost. I forget which line it is. But I decided
Hypo ghost all the same.
I mean, it's different lines. They are compatible. So I want to give those people who developed those lines some credit there and try to stick to whatever they called it. But I got that male, and further down the line, I picked up a Enchi pied that's also pos het for hypo. So I decided to put them together, and out popped a couple hypo pieds, to my surprise. But like I said, I'm guilty of this. So now I'm starting to dive a little bit deeper into the hypo pied project. And it came at a good time because, you know, I think hypo is going to make a huge comeback.
Hypo and G-stripe right now, don't buy them. I mean, buy them. They're cheap. But don't buy them because I'm working in those projects or will be in the future. But, I mean, it's relatively affordable to get into hypo, G-stripe, albino.
Yeah.
And a few other recessive projects. If you compare that with a het, and you get a visual, you know, clown, het, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can pair those together, and what's the worst case you're going to get?
It's affordable because of, you know, the supply and demand, right? Because there's a lot of hypos out there. It's been around for a long time. Because the amount of energy and effort and time to breed a hypopide is the same amount of time it takes to produce a desert ghost pied. But the desert ghost pied is extremely, astronomically more expensive. And it all happens, it's all based on the supply and demand. Right?
Yeah.
There's not many desert ghost pies out there, but hypopies are so many. So I think a desert ghost pied is like $10,000, whereas a hypopied female is $1,000. So you're talking about 10 times.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, that just tells me to, with that new boy I'm getting from Antoine, I might not have any of the clown, you know, desert ghost G-stripe stuff that he can work with readily. Plug him into my pied. You know, I have 2 genes in there because he's lemon blast. Throw it in with pied. It's going to be either enhanced pied or DG pied, you know, whatever.
Well, I thought the one that you're getting is het for clown, or is it het for cryptic?
It is a lemon blast DG enhancer, so
right.
100% het clown.
Oh, clown.
50% het G-stripe. So, I mean, it totally throws off my ultramel, like everything. But, you know, it's a hatchling this year, so I have a whole year to do ultramel and everything.
Right.
And then bring that all back in together. So, I mean, it's pretty cool.
Do you have clowns?
I do. I have male clowns.
Yeah. You don't have females.
I have female pos hets that have sheds over there ready to get sent out. They're 100% hets. That changes my project because I can make OD hypo clowns.
Okay.
The same year that guy would be ready. So, I mean, do I do that where it's like they're on both sides, or do I just throw in the DG and the, you know, quad hets or whatever the hell it would be at that point?
So would you? Because it sounded like you wanted to use that boy, the lemon blast DG het clown boy, to make double hets, possible triple hets with your pied females. Is that the route that you wanted to go to?
Yeah, I mean
Or
that's like the female I have that would be the most, without buying anything more.
mm-hmm.
That's the female that would make the most sense. And then the following year, the one I showed off earlier, the Super Pastel Entry Butter Ghost. Up here. This one would be the next best sense when she's up and ready. That throws in, a hypo, goat, whatever you want to call it. It throws that in there and adds some more because I know that works well with DG, and it's going to be pastel. It has to be pastel, and it could even be super pastel in the double heads. So if I hit that the right way, that could be really cool. I'm slacking on the chat. Phil says he has 0 hypo.
Phil has 0 hypo?
He's probably got orange ghost. I don't know. He's got odium. Who knows?
Huh. Why, Phil?
He just says, I just need one. He needs that perfect one to plug in there.
I'm missing out on all this.
I know. I've been trying, Kai. I've been trying to pop up at the chat, but then we're talking and it's not there.
I see Chris said that looks classy on me. He's talking about his t-shirt.
Yeah, he is.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Chris. I do like the color. I don't have many t-shirts with this color, the seafoam green. Most of mine are like black and white or blue. Or gray.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, back behind when we were backstage, we've had a natural disaster affecting our friends in Florida recently in Hurricane Ian. What on earth can we do? Now, this could be relative to you in New Jersey or just in general.
Are you talking about in terms of like backup plans or how we can help the people in Florida, like donations?
No, how the people in Florida donate to Red Cross? No, I mean, how can we prepare ourselves for an emergency? I get it, we're up north. I'm in Pennsylvania. He's in New Jersey. So mainly it's ice storms, bad winter storms.
Yeah, so, I mean, those are things that are going to cause power outages, damages to your house, which could ultimately cause power outages as well. So when I moved here, I'm in New Jersey. When I moved here, let me back up. When I was a kid, I lived at my parents' house. We never got any power outages. Like it was a very, very old town. They probably built things the right way back then. But the town that I'm in now is a little newer. And so when I moved here, I think the first or second year we got a big storm and power went out for several days. We ended up having to pack stuff up and go to my parents' house for those days. Luckily, I didn't have the snakes yet, but I did have fish. I did have a lot of fish tanks. And of course, that stuff has to be running. Like there's no the water has to be circulating. There needs to be oxygen in there. The filter needs to be running to take out, because if the filter stops running and the pump stop running, then you have a lack of oxygen. There's like going to be all these toxins that build up because the filter's not able to strip them out. So there's a lot of things that could go wrong with fish. A lot more stuff can go wrong with fish than with snakes or dogs or anything else that breathes air. So I learned from very very early on that I need backups and redundancy in place, and that also helps me with the fact that I was in the IT field, building like web servers and web environments. We talk a lot about backups and redundancies. So I think that fed into my preparation that I have when I started with ball pythons. So the two things are to have extra on hand, right? So for example, my fish tank, every piece of equipment, I have another one that's brand new in the box, right? So if it fails, I take it out. Now, that's not going to help in terms of a power outage. So then we have to think about, backup sources. For me, because I already had the fish tanks, I already had a generator on hand. The generator is one of those those big ones that are on wheels. It's not the automatic one that you have permanently hooked up to your house.
It's not the generator thing in your garage.
Nah, right.
This outside to get a, get the little blood here to.
Right. We don't have power outages often enough for me to warrant a permanent backup generator.
Like this guy, like Phil.
Yeah, Phil powers everything off of the sun. So I have one of those portable ones. I forget the energy that it's able to produce, but it's sitting in my garage. I do fire it up once a year just to make sure it's working.
Yeah.
But when I first got that generator, I was running power cords through my entire house, like extension cords. It probably wasn't safe, and it was extremely cold outside, and we had to have one window open for all those cords to come in, so that wasn't ideal either. But depending on your situation, like if you're in an area that doesn't get power outages, something simple like that would do. If you're in an area that gets power outages for prolonged periods of time and it happens frequently, then you might want to look into those automatic ones that are permanently hooked up to your house. But there's different levels of, and depending on your collection too. Like in the beginning, I actually made a video of a battery backup. So basically,
that's what I have here on everything, because power outages are so seldom, and when they are occurring for multiple days where I live, everything stays going in bags and going in a tub and driving to somewhere where there's power and heat.
Yeah, so you could simply get a what you call an inverter, not a converter, but an inverter. You can buy that for $40. You can get a more expensive one. They have different specs, and depending on what you need, you can get an inverter, and all you're doing is basically hooking up an inverter to a battery, because the battery runs on DC, right? Yeah, so it's DC power, 12 volts, 24 volts, whatever battery you can get. Most car batteries are 12 volts, I think. So you can hook that up to a car battery. And if you don't have a huge need for energy, like let's say your heat tape, to power maybe a couple for heat for a couple of tubs, then a battery is going to probably last you several hours, maybe even a full day. So you could get the inverter, hook it up to your car battery, power those two tubs to provide heat, and then when the power runs out, you can run over to Walmart or Pep Boys or wherever and let them charge it up and then bring it back home. So you can do it that way. Or you can just pop it back into your car and turn it on for a little bit and have your car charge it up. But yeah, it all depends on the situation. So if you don't need a huge consumption of power, maybe a couple car batteries would do it. For me at this point, car batteries is not going to help. I do actually have that same car battery set up on my fish tank, because like I said, the fish needs all that equipment to be on. There's a minimum amount of equipment that they need in order to live. So the car battery for me on the fish tank gives me a couple hours so that I can go ahead and set up that portable generator. And once I set up the portable generator, then I have power to the house. Now, I mentioned earlier that the first time I used that portable generator, I had extension cords running through a window. What I've done since is to put this other box up. I think it's called a transfer switch box. So what that does is it allows me to plug the portable generator into that transfer switch box. The transfer switch box then sends power to my service box, and then from there it's powering what I want. So I can basically select what appliances or lights or outlets in my house that I want the portable generator to power. It's not going to power my entire house. I can set it up to power the entire house, but I would need a much more powerful generator to do so. So right now, the way I have set up is that it powers the essentials. So it's going to power things like freezers, refrigerators, a few lights in the hallways. Obviously, it's going to power the what I need for my fish tanks and for the sticks, for them to be comfortable, and things like that. But it's not going to power the entire house. And for me, that's really all I need, because in my situation, we don't get power outages very frequently, and they don't last long. Even when I do get a power outage, it's up in like 5 minutes. And sometimes we get power outages in the middle of the night, and I don't even know about it. So it doesn't even
you wake
really
up, your
impact
microwave's
me.
blinking.
Yeah, the microwave's blinking, the clock is blinking, or something like that.
I mean, but it is a thing that depending on where you are in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, you have to consider. If you're out more rural, definitely need a generator backup for that. And Kai, I know you zoomed in there to read what I put up there from Phil.
Yep. Yep.
And Phil's thing is, I'm pretty sure he's charging his batteries for his power tools on his solar array.
Yeah, I saw pictures of his setup on Instagram. So I think he's powering his whole wrap building, his incubator, and his tools.
And a backup.
Yeah, and the backup battery. That's pretty cool. It's very impressive.
And Phil needs to do more of that on YouTube, and then actually show up on YouTube one time.
Phil won't go on YouTube.
Nah. We're calling you out. I mean, maybe. There is one woman on Earth that might have the power. That is Nicole from Lady Tiz Exotics. She might have the power to bring Phil on to show his face on a YouTube Live. We'll see.
Just do it, Phil. Peel that Band-Aid off.
I mean, Nicole got Kike from Bosa Balls to show up for an interview, so maybe. We'll see. All right. So, I mean, we've been talking about, a variety of topics, but not really so much ball python genetics outside of what we're working with. So, to keep in the spirit of the interview, what I have to do as interviewing you, what would be one incomplete dominant gene that you're not working with right now that you want to add?
That's tough.
Acid, stranger, I'll give you some answers.
Well, the thing is like, I just put together my breeding plan for 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like I'm content right now with all the genes that I have. I'm not really looking to add anything. I feel like there's some plans that are in my head that I haven't executed yet. And so I almost don't want to even add other genes, because that's just, again, that's going to make me spread myself thin, right? It's going to dilute my attention. And then I'm going to focus my energy on something else when I haven't even, fully executed the plan that I had initially. I really do like the, what's it called? Monsoon. Monsoon looks cool. But again, I feel like it's a little bit, I know it's not the same as Sunset, and I'm not trying to say that either. I don't even think they look the same, but it would be like if I were to start Sunset all over again. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have Sunset at all up until 2022, this year. And I got one male, and I put him to all of my females. And I know you guys are going to see it soon on my YouTube channel, because I have videos, like back-to-back videos of me just cutting eggs, and they're all normal because they're just double hets, like sunset plus whatever other recessive. And it's exciting, but I also don't want to relive that. just knowing that I'm going to have a whole rack full of normals. So I like monsoon, but I'm going to stay away from it for now because I don't want to relive doing what I just did this year.
Right.
If there was like an opportunity to get like, you know, something that is, you know, a 1.2 or a 1.3 of het monsoons with maybe some other recessives involved, I might consider doing that. But I definitely don't want to buy a visual monsoon and put them to all of my females again, like I did with the sunset. I don't regret doing it because like I said, I have a plan in my head to get sunset into, you know, 2 or 3 of my recessive projects.
Yeah. That makes sense. My buddy is adamant on getting sunset, but he's getting a female.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if he gets that as a hatchling in 2-3 years, well, I mean, Desert Ghost, a couple other recessives are going to be possible, and you know that pairing as well as Pinstripe and Pastel. So, you know, if he gets a cinnamon sunset or whatever he's buying from Brock Wagner when he does, I mean, it's going to be a female. So I'm excited for that because I'm the guy with all the recessives. And I say an F-bomb, YouTube.
What did he say? What did he say? What did he say?
I don't know. I'm not the guy with all the recessives. That's what I said. But, you know, for me, I'm the guy that's taking the gambles and he's buying the snakes that are sort of hedging my bets. So. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm sorry. I was trying to read the comments.
I'm not putting them up that well. Most of my holdbacks are normals. They're super normals. Chris from Germany, yeah. At least Danny and other Chris from Balls Deep haven't been in here. That'd have been bad. All right, what genes would we add to puzzle?
Me, where you want to go?
I mean, I think DG puzzle, DG clown puzzle, like that type of thing would be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say Ultramel everything. I think it works where it can. I know we both work with that. Kai, what would you add to? You know, I don't know if we're talking recessives here. It's, I added recessives. So
yeah.
I mean, maybe
so I think I would try to add. I don't know why, but I want to add Mojave to puzzle. That would be the incomplete dominant or the codom gene that I want to add. If I want to pick a recessive to add to puzzle, it would be hypo. Mainly because I'm doing it, so I'm working on that. So why not? So yeah, so puzzle was another gene that I wasn't highly excited about. It was just like, you know, when puzzle came out, and when I mean came out, I don't mean that when it was founded. I just mean like when it became popular. It was like everybody was putting stuff into puzzle. You start seeing things like I saw an Enchi Orange Dream puzzle. I think that was a post from Kyle Frost Reptiles.
Okay.
And that was the one where it's like, oh, you know what? Maybe I should get into puzzle because everybody's working with it. And that was like something. The Enchi Orange Dream puzzle was something to look forward to. And so I purchased, what did I get? Oh, even at that time, I wanted to put hypo in it. So I saw a pastel double het hypo puzzle, and I think it was Exotics by Nature who had it. But when I inquired, that animal was already sold. So I ended up getting a normal, this fantastic normal that is double het for a hypo puzzle.
Hey, I'm making some of them that are double het Ultramel pies.
Yeah, so. Man, the double hets are necessary. So I got this male, normal male. double het for hypo puzzle, and it's a male, for ridiculously cheap. Um, and I put him to a hypo female, and I got really lucky with that clutch. The female was, I think she was originally purchased as a het for hypo, and it turns out that she must be a visual hypo based on the amount of hypo hatchlings I got from that clutch.
Nice.
I think I got like 4 hypo pinstripes, 1 hypo spider, 1 fire bee hypo, and maybe a couple other animals. I got really lucky with the number of hypos. I got lucky with the number of females, so I ended up holding a lot of them back. And that was a couple of years ago. So I think most of those females have gotten past their 1,000 gram wall.
Right.
They started eating it again, thankfully. And I think I don't remember the last time I weighed them, but the last time that they were on the scale, they were, I think, around like 12 to 1,300 grams. So they should be ready in 2023 to go back to that original male that I got. I also used that male on another breeding, and I was able to produce a pastel vanilla hypo. That's also 50% het for puzzle. I'm kind of in a pickle here because I don't know if I should use the pastel vanilla hypo 50% het for puzzle to breed to some of those females from the first breeding. Because on one hand, I could get pastel and vanilla in there, and like I said, one of those animals is a fire bee. So I really want to see what the vanilla cream or vanilla scream, whatever
you're calling that, vanilla,
whatever it could possibly be, interact with puzzle. But then I'm still playing with 50% and 50%, and I won't know if the male didn't prove out or the female didn't prove out.
Charlie says vanilla everything. I mean, I'm vanilla everything, at least from the snake I bought from Chris with, balls deep.
Yeah. What's up, Charlie? I like vanilla too, man. I like vanilla better than fire because, well, what you said earlier is like the fire is going to produce an all white snake. So with vanilla, you have more options. You can put the vanilla to a vanilla
with fire
and still get a bunch of pattern. Yeah, exactly. You can double up on vanilla.
Somebody said something in the chat that I wanted to ask, and Jeremy threw me off because he's going live, and I had to go look for who I got to do the send off for in about 15 minutes. So, I mean, that threw me. Like, you mentioned, puzzle is, I think, a way to go right now. As far as if you want to get into a project, recessive-wise.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get in co-dom-wise or incomplete dominant, depending on your nomenclature, acid, static, whatever the
confusion.
Confusion. Those are ones. Stranger. Is it mahogany? I think there's another one in there.
I'm not familiar with that one. I think you might be right. Is it chocolate? Maybe chocolate and Wookiee are together. I'm not very familiar with those.
There's something with there's that spider complex with champagne, Woma, hidden gene Woma, a spider, that complex, and then like Wookiee, blackhead, and the ones that don't have the wobble, which is like really confusing to me because everybody I've heard has said they're all the same with spider. Maybe not. I mean, all those things, in the spider complex have a fatal combo. Blackhead, Wookiee, chocolate, whatever, over here. It's like they don't when paired, so maybe that's a separate thing.
I don't know. You know who I do believe is Justin. I wish he would update that. That he's got a web page where it used to list out all the allelic stuff.
Yep.
I don't know if he's been updating it or not. I feel like it's outdated.
But I feel like everything in the spider complex has gotten bigger just because it looks kind of spidery.
You mean like
Or
the bolt?
hold on, let me curly Q. Sorry, you're not watching this over there. No, if you are, I am sorry. That is a spider. Um, plenty of people would say the same thing. Anyway, what's the difference between acid and confusion?
So acid, static, and confusion are said to be the same. Um,
Different lines. Much
yeah,
like
they're from different people. I think it was the same person who basically sent out his clutch to 3 different people, and one of them being Justin. So Justin took that animal and he called it confusion, and then the other 2 breeders called it static and acid. But I think even those 3 breeders, they all agree that it is the same thing, but they're keeping their names to keep it separate, kind of like banana and coral glow.
lesser, butter, hurricane, trick, blitz.
Yeah, pretty much.
I think hurricane is actually the original one, and then the other 2 popped up, or at least that was the first one founded. But what's Charlie say?
Well, Trick has been around. I feel like Trick has been around longer. Trick and Blitz, because Hurricane to me was more recent.
When I looked it up to see, like, because I have a trick now. When I looked
Hmm.
it up, it was like, okay, it's hurricane and blitz trick.
Yeah, but we can probably just check on if we really wanted to know, we could just check on World
Yeah,
of
I could
Ball
do a shared
Pythons.
screen and go Google. But
Yeah.
so why is confusion more expensive?
Is it more expensive?
I actually don't really know. It could be because Kabelka put it with Lavender Albino. It seems whatever he does.
Yeah, I mean the animals, maybe the confusion animals are more expensive because there's other genes attached to it. Um, because the acid project, it seems like it's more being combined with codoms, whereas the confusion, when it's because it's Justin, and Justin is like the king of double visual, triple recessives.
Recesses.
He's been putting the confusion with like you said, lavender and clowns. So maybe that's the reason. I don't really know. I have maybe one animal that's a confusion. I don't have acid or static, and I say I maybe have one animal that's a confusion because it's an ivory, and I haven't bred it. So we'll find
Yeah.
out this year, hopefully, if it has other stuff in it. But it's an all white snake. I really like it, even though it's all white. I'm not a huge fan of having like a bunch of all white snakes, but I kind of miss my ivory female that I had, when I first started this hobby. So I decided to get another ivory. I have 2 all white snakes now. I have one that is a Russo Lesser, Hetford Clown. It might have another gene in it, and that other gene is, if it does have another gene, it's most likely going to be pastel, because that bell has kind of a yellowish tint to it. But that yellowish tint could also be due to the fact that it's a Russo, because I think
Yeah.
double Russo, super Russo, is that called a white wedding or something? No, not white wedding. What's it called? A white wedding is pied lesser. So what is the super Russo called?
I don't know.
White. I think it's diamond. It's something like white diamond or
Oh,
something like
white
that.
diamond. Okay.
But
My bell is a Mojave butter. Yeah, I'm
yeah,
still struggling
and I'm
up with
sure I'm sure it's very very white. But the white diamond has, some of them have a bit of a yellowish tint to it, and you can still make out a little bit of the pattern. So I'm hoping that my bell, because it has a yellowish tint to it, that it's because it has Russo in it and not because it has pastel. So that's my one white snake, and then the other white snake is, like I said, is the ivory. So I have one blue eye Lucy and one black eye Lucy, and the ivory one could have leopard, it could have fire, and it could have confusion. So we'll find out in 2023 if it has any of those other codoms attached to it.
Yeah, I was trying to, like, with this clutch I just hatched out. I was hoping to see, like, what did mom have?
Mm-hmm.
Because she has a wonky pattern, right? And I was thinking there were a couple things that could have been in there. And what happens? The sire throws 4 champagnes, and a pastel, and various combos in between. All Mom did was prove out she was at high 100%. It's like,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe we'll see that. I mean, I'm going to pair her to a visual pie if she's up to weight this coming season. And maybe we'll get, a normal het out of that, but I don't think so. But if we do, then that pattern hopefully is influenced by Mom and not the dad. So I can see what maybe if there's something in Mom. But either way, she's 100% het pie, and I'm happy for that now.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
$20.
I agree with Phil. There's too many combo names, too many of these designer names, and sometimes it's hard. Sometimes, like, you can have 2 designer names and they're both accurate. Like, for example, a stinger.
Call this one purple nurple. I mean,
what if you have like a stinger pinstripe? Do you call it a stinger pinstripe, or do you call it an Enchy spinner? It's still 3 genes.
Yeah.
It gets confusing.
Bumblebee Spark or Cougar Spider?
Did you say Cougar? What's a Cougar? I haven't even heard that one.
I think Pastel Spark. I don't know. There's some stupid names that are out there. I heard Cougar. Something in relation to Bumblebee Sparks. I typed everything in on Morph Market, but there might have been another gene in there in that calculator. But yeah, I mean, it gets confusing. It's like, oh, this one's the Riddler. What the hell's the Riddler? It doesn't. I mean, I get it when it's like 8 million genes together.
Yeah. Some of them don't even make sense to me. Like you said, the Riddler. Oh, the one that I do like is the Grim Reaper, because there's a gene called Grim and there's a gene called Reaper, I think. And when you put that combination together, it's called the Grim Reaper.
Okay, yeah, that works. Cougar is Spark Spider. See, I wasn't going crazy. And this name came from Chris, so we're good.
But why? Why would you call it a cougar? What makes it? Does it look like the cat?
A Spark Yellow Belly makes a puma? I don't know.
But what makes it a puma? It doesn't even look like a puma. Have you ever seen a puma? It doesn't look anything like that color combination. That's the part that's confusing to me.
And I'm pretty sure that existed before the whole freeway, parkway, highway stuff.
See, I like those, right? Yeah, because they actually make sense, because it looks like the dotted line on a highway or on a freeway or whatever.
I feel like somebody named that, and then the next people were like, crap, we got to go buy that. Hey, it was freeway, okay, highway, parkway, bypass, turnpike.
Yeah. And we talked about the fire complex, right? Like a lot of them, like you have fire, you have flame, sulfur, Lucifer. They all like focus around heat and fire. But then you have vanilla.
Disco.
Yeah, and disco. But so I feel like they don't really fall into the same naming convention. But
all right, so
there's too many. There's a lot of names.
Somehow we always have to. On my show, we hit up this last 5 minutes, so we do a 5 minutes, 5 questions.
All right.
It just works out perfectly.
All right.
Every time. All right. So, where do you see yourself in 5 years as a ball python breeder?
A miniature version of Ozzy.
All right, that's great. A boutique ball python breeder focusing on so many different genes, but always the best quality. All right. So, are there any shows you plan on vending or attending in the next couple months?
Next couple months, probably not. I don't have any display cases or anything, although I do have in my mind a design to build a display case.
Okay.
But I don't think I'm going to be vending in the near months. I do plan to go to Tinley again. Probably not the March one, but maybe the October one, if I can remember to book to book the hotel and airfare, because that's the part that screws me up. Like it gets close to October, and then I was like, shit, I don't have a hotel.
Okay, book it all now. You can say it big.
They're not accepting. They're not accepting. It's too far out right now. That's the problem. I did call. I called and I'll be like, hey, can I book a room for October? And they're like, we're not handling that time frame. Call back in a few months.
Yeah. All right. So where can people find you on social media? I know I alluded to it earlier. It's down in the description, but give your spiel.
Yes. I have a website called LucasLandon.com. It's without the Royals because that was the domain name that I was able to acquire at that time. But if you go on there, you'll see icons for YouTube, um, Morph Market, Instagram, and Facebook. And I am on TikTok as well, although I just started on TikTok not too long ago. So, but there, I try to put all different content on there. So, you might see the same snake, but it'll be a different video or a different post.
All right. All right. Any last words for the audience? Any best advice, best tips, tricks? You can tell Danny his snakes are bird food. I don't care. It's the last part of the show.
I think the best advice, other than stay focused, would be to grow into this hobby / business. It's a piece of advice that I got from Mark Mandic over at Marcus Jane. And what he means by it is, don't go and just buy 100 animals and expect to make it big. Like, test your own limits by working with a few animals and then adding a few more. There's times where I feel like I'm at a good place where I'm stable. I feel like I'm stable. I can handle this number of animals. And when I feel that way, then I have the confidence to add a couple more animals and a couple more to the point where I feel like I'm going to be to tilt or to get to a point where I may not be comfortable. So then I have to find efficiencies. And when I find those efficiencies, then I gain back more time. And when I have the time, then I can go buy more animals. So that's kind of my plan, my strategy when I'm trying to increase my collection. I hate calling it a collection because it feels like I'm collecting stamps or something. These are animals.
It's our arc of genes. That's what Dave calls it.
Yes.
Our arc.
Right. So
anyway.
that's my thing. It's just to grow into it. So my advice, I know I'm kind of stealing somebody else's advice, but it's from Mark Mandic. So I want to give that guy credit for his advice, is to grow into it.
I'm pretty sure everybody that's done their last bit and taken a quote from somebody has stolen it. So thank you, Kai. I appreciate you coming on here and talking about all sorts of, bouncing around stuff that's going on in the hobby, talking about genetics, talking about, genetic testing, talking about racks and whatnot. But we are hitting that 8 o'clock moment where what I have to do. I got to send y'all over to Jeremy Warfel's Morphs, and I'm slacking on having the link in there. So if somebody is a moderator, can you drop that right now? I will be bad. I was bad tonight. I normally have that, staged up, but I do not tonight. So go check out Jeremy after we sign off, and he's got Sarah from VS Exotics, I believe, on there. So go listen to them talk about ball pythons. You'll listen to us enough. So we're going to go sign off.
All right. Thanks for having me on here, Kent. And I'll see you guys later.
Yep, later, Kai.